We reporters tend to make a big deal of the governor's State of the State address, when most people never watch or listen to it or even think about it. But here's why it matters. The governor's agenda sort of sets the road for the rest of state government's decisions in a year, decisions that affect all of us. If it's too far off the road, it tends not to get done. But just because it's on the road doesn't mean everyone will agree. Our Capitol reporter in Albany shares what he saw last week from big players and what they think about Hochul's road for 2026. That's today's Story of the Day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from the Wild Center in Tupper Lake, dedicated to strengthening visitors' connections to the natural world. More at wildcenter.org.
Hey, I'm David Sommerstein. It's Monday, January 19th. First up, two men who had been ice fishing on Chameau Pond in St. Lawrence County were found dead on Sunday after their snowmobile fell through the ice. According to police, 48-year-old Michael Booth and 33-year-old Brian LaPlante were out fishing with a 6-year-old boy. After not returning home on Sunday, Patrick LaPlante searched the shoreline. He found one of the missing men, but fell through the ice trying to rescue him. Patrick made it out of the ice and returned home to report the incident to police. Shortly after that, the 6-year-old boy returned home, having walked there from the incident. Both were taken to the hospital and treated for hypothermia. Rescue crews found the two missing men, who were later pronounced dead at the hospital. A well-known outdoor guide in the Adirondacks died last week. Joe Hackett was 69 years old. Hackett grew up hunting, fishing, and exploring in Elizabethtown. He guided in the Adirondacks for more than 4 decades. Hackett also worked as a recreation counselor at Camp Gabriel's, the now-closed state prison near Saranac Lake. He spoke with NCPR about that work back in 2013.
I'd be out fishing or hiking or paddling all day, and then I would go back into the world of corrections, change my hat, basically.
During his decades at the prison, Hackett brought his passion for the outdoors to the men behind bars.
We built an outdoor course that was built basically out of wood. And we brought other things. We brought cross-country skiing. We were the only facility in the state of New York that had skis and poles.
Hackett has been credited with rekindling and reshaping the guiding industry in New York State. He also wrote a weekly column in the Adirondack Daily Enterprise for nearly 20 years, known as the Adirondack Gadabout. Hackett and his wife Maria raised their 2 daughters in Ray Brook. According to the Enterprise, Hackett was surrounded by family when he died at home on Sunday, January 11th. Another New York prison guard charged in the beating death of prisoner Robert Brooks is pleading guilty. Michael Fisher unexpectedly entered the plea after a 5-day manslaughter trial in which jurors were deadlocked. Fisher is one of 10 former guards at the Marcy Correctional Facility charged in connection with Brooks' death in 2024. Prosecutors say Fisher stood by while other officers punched, kicked, and strangled Brooks. One guard was convicted of murder for the attack. Fisher pleaded guilty to reckless endangerment. He faces 6 months in jail. Special Prosecutor Bill Fitzpatrick says he's happy with the result.
I wanted accountability. I wanted him to hear the clink of a jail cell for some period of time behind him because, if you remember, this guy essentially did nothing.
Fisher's attorney says the plea gives him certainty. He still plans to appeal. Just about a week ago, Governor Kathy Hochul unveiled her 2026 agenda during her 5th State of the State speech. The New York Public News Network's Jimmy Vielkind and Andrew Waite break down reactions to her proposals from the left and the right.
We heard a lot about affordability during Mayor Zohran Mamdani's campaign. He was there for the speech. How did he react?
Very positively. He was the one who stood up, sprang to his feet, and led the standing ovation when Hochul talked about those child care subsidies. Mamdani said overall he was very pleased.
The future of our state and our city is strong, and it will be defined by working creatively and cooperatively on behalf of our government for the people that we are so fortunate to serve.
He He was a little cooler on some of Hochul's other proposals, including one that would create protest-free buffer zones around houses of worship. I was actually sitting behind Mamdani. He was in the fourth row. And when Hochul was talking about that, he didn't clap at all.
Interesting detail. Okay, and then Hochul also took aim at immigration and customs enforcement. What exactly is she committing to here?
So these were some of Hochul's strongest comments on immigrant rights up to this point, and as I said, they got some of the strongest applause of anything in her speech. She mentioned the recent detention of a New York City Council analyst, said that it was horrific that ICE agents are targeting law-abiding people. She also referenced the shooting death of Renee Good in Minneapolis, something that has set off protests both in the Twin Cities and around the country. So Hochul is proposing to make houses of worship, hospitals, and schools so-called safe spaces or sanctuary spaces where ICE cannot enter unless it has a specific warrant. The governor also said that she wants to change New York law in a way that would let people sue federal agents if they are injured or if their property is disrupted by ICE or other federal immigration authorities. That apparently would match the standard of state and local police right now. So Hochul says they still have some qualified immunity, but this brings a measure of accountability. Notable for me, though, Andrew, is that she didn't back a bill called New York for All. It's something that immigration advocates in New York consider to be kind of the holy grail, and it would forbid local and state police agencies around the state from entering into cooperation agreements with ICE or other federal immigration authorities. Advocates say that this legislation would provide comprehensive protection, it would conserve resources, and they say it would increase trust with the police. Republicans, of course, hate this bill. They say that it impedes federal immigration enforcement and it leads to a problematic atmosphere for law enforcement officers.
And generally, how have Republicans been reacting to the speech? I know you spoke with Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman, who, of course, is mounting a Republican campaign for governor here in 2026. He came to the Capitol the day after the speech. You caught up with him?
That's right. So Republicans in general have basically been saying that they think Hochul's approach is misguided. They say that, yes, there are problems of affordability, but big government programs are going to increase spending. They're going to inevitably increase taxes, and that's never going to truly bring affordability. It's never going to make New York competitive for residents and businesses with other states. Blakeman attacked Hochul by saying that, she's been around for 4 years, and so all these problems she's talking about, why hasn't she solved them?
You've been the governor for 4 years, Kathy. You don't have a record that you can run on. And now all you do is blame Trump and blame the Republicans in Washington, D.C. for problems that exist here in New York State.
And did he try to tie Hochul to Mamdani?
He didn't at the Capitol, but he has done that throughout his successful reelection campaign. And he brought up the mayor during Thursday appearances in New York City, where he was appearing in the Chinese-American neighborhoods. So remember, this is a little complicated for Republicans because President Trump was so praiseful of Mamdani when the two of them met in the Oval Office. There was also a report in Axios recently that Trump and Mamdani have become texting buddies.
But Hochul is still tying Blakeman to Trump.
Yep, that's right. And, Blakeman was quite clear. He has a close relationship to the president. The president very quickly endorsed his bid for governor. And Blakeman said that he supports almost all, if not all, of Trump's policies, including the things on immigration.
That was our New York Public News Network Albany correspondent Jimmy Vielkind speaking with NYPNN's Andrew Waite. We have more news all the time on our website, ncpr.org. Music today by B. Children of Canton and Jared Stephen Doyle of Potsdam. I'm David Sommerstein, North Country Public Radio.